Get this. Adults with financial literacy skills have 82% more wealth than those who don't. From swimming lessons to piano classes, us parents invest in so many things to enrich our kids' lives. But are we investing in their future financial success? With Greenlight, you can teach your kids financial literacy skills like earning, saving, and investing. And this investment costs less than that after-school treat. Start prioritizing their financial education and future today with a risk-free trial at greenlight.com/get-started. That's greenlight.com/get-started.
It just seems like they're hedging their bets, right? If you want to make another Captain Marvel movie, just make it.
Thank you. Exactly. It's like they want us to check a box whether we're going to go to the dance with their franchise or something. I'm not checking the box.
Please, Mr. Curry. All I need is some elbow patches.
And I told you elbow patches don't come cheap.
Guys.
Now, if you'd be willing to do me a favor.
Wait, what are you doing now?
Yeah. What did you do to the couches, man?
Oh, hey, Noah. Hey, Cecil. Yeah, we were getting all psyched up for this week's episode about Boss Tweed.
Yeah, I am not going to lie. I am deep into character on this one. I own half the Tweed in the city.
It's true. He does.
No. Guys,
Tweed.
This episode has nothing to do with the material. It's about Boss Tweed, the public figure, the super corrupt politician.
He wasn't a fabric magnate, known for his style of warm, but, still itchy clothes.
Nope.
Damn. Well, I guess we should get these back to Pier 1 then.
Yeah, and we should untie the Men's Warehouse guy we have in the back.
You guys know you could just Google who we're doing before you set up your shenanigans, right?
I mean, we could.
Yeah, honestly, I'm kind of relieved. This stuff is super itchy. Fuck. Just, ugh.
Okay. And welcome to Citation Needed, podcast where we choose a subject, read a single article about it on Wikipedia, and pretend we are experts. Because this is the internet, and that's how it works now. I'm Cecil, and I'll be raging against this machine. But to do a proper job, I'll need my other mechanics. First up, my special technicians for carburetors and realignment, but only when you're talking about bongs and D&D characters, Noah and Eli.
In my niche, we have a totally different meaning for spark plug. Yeah.
And I'm the podcasting version of a murder hobo, so it's time someone acknowledged it. I'm glad it's out there.
Also joining us tonight is the guy we don't let touch stuff because he is our brake expert, Tom.
Okay, it's not my fault everything is made so flimsy these days, Cecil.
Oh.
I am a robust man living in a delicate world.
That's an interesting way to put it. I'll allow it. Patrons, without you, Eli would have to move something heavier than a can of fruit nectar, and one of Tom's 400 children who he doesn't know personally would starve. Oh, and Noah needs weed.
Sure does.
Your continued support is a truly humanitarian effort. And if you'd like to learn how, be sure to stick around till the end of the show. And with that out of the way, tell us, Noah, what person, place, thing, concept, phenomenon, or event will we be talking about today?
Boss Tweed.
I know you had this one in your sights for a while, Noah. So who was Boss Tweed?
Oh, I so have. All right. So he was the very epitome of the corrupt, bloated political grifter. Like if a smoke-filled back room could get pregnant, its baby would be Boss fucking Tweed. He was the center of a corrupt political ring that ran New York City politics through the middle of the 19th century, and he excelled at it despite never holding a particularly high office himself. Instead, he controlled the people who did hold high office, and more importantly, he controlled the votes that would keep them in high office. By so doing, he got himself appointed to key positions that allowed him to enrich himself to a Putin-esque degree. Quoting directly from the opening paragraph of the wiki here, quote, "At the height of his influence, Tweed was the third largest landowner in New York City, a director of the Erie Railroad, a director of the 10th National Bank, a director of the New York Printing Company, the proprietor of the Metropolitan Hotel, a significant stockholder in iron mines and gas companies, a board member of the Harlem Gaslight Company, a board member of the Third Avenue Railway Company, a board member of the Brooklyn Bridge Company, and the president of the Guardian Savings Bank," end quote.
And if he were alive today, he'd have almost as many podcasts.
Yeah.
The Harlem Gaslight Company is now known as the Black Republican Association.
Well done, sir.
Okay, no, where does the Tweed story start?
So it starts April 3rd of 1823 on the Lower East Side of Manhattan, where William Mayer Tweed was born. He was the son of a third-generation Scottish chairmaker. And by the way, his middle name is often listed as Marcy, and the wiki is littered with the detritus of a battle over his middle name that mars the entire article like the fields of fucking Verdun. So I want to make sure that I'm super clear about that right up front. Anyway, a little Willie Tweed got a bit of schooling early on, but he was done with that by the age of 11 when he left to follow his dad's trade. Then he went on to apprentice for a saddle maker, studied to be a bookkeeper, and worked as a brush maker because apparently everything was a fucking whole ass occupation back then. At the age of 21, he married one Mary Jane Skaden, and her name literally never comes up in the wiki again, nor does any reference to his wife. So that's all I'm going to say about her.
As a man who flipped through several college majors before deciding to go into debt for a philosophy degree, I'm going to be very, very quiet. Just really quiet.
Okay, well, now I'm curious. What didn't rise to the level of philosophy? Did your school offer a degrry in home economics, Cecil?
Shots
let me save
fired
Cecil
from
from
the theater
answering that,
guy.
right? Yeah, right. Now, apparently, Tweed's political career started in a volunteer fire department, which wasn't at all unusual back then. Apparently, volunteer fire companies were common recruiting grounds for political parties. And if you've seen Gangs of New York, you'll know that volunteer fire companies in 19th century New York were also famously adversarial. They were often drawn along ethnic lines from various immigrant communities, and they were as likely to fight with one another as they were to fight fires. Okay, there's no record on how good Tweed was at the firefighting aspect of his job, but he was apparently really good at the firefighter fighting part of it. And his reputation for, in the wiki's word, axe-wielding violence got him elected as the foreman of his fire company and eventually caught the notice of the state's Democratic Party. They put him up for alderman in 1850 when Tweed was 26 years old.
Fighting Democrats. This is definitely the past. Definitely the past.
I was going to say, nowadays, Tweed would just email you while your house was on fire. Eli, you have to stop this fire. Can I count on you to donate $15 today?
This is a lot of reliance on the axe. I mean, like, I have never fought a fire. I'm a giant baby who's afraid of fire, but I feel like in a game of axe, water, and fire, axe loses to both water and fire every time.
Yeah, but when you're fighting other firefighters, though,
okay,
it's super handy. So Tweed loses his first election, but he runs again the following year and wins and takes his first crack at public office. It'd be around that time that he would also get his first experience illegally enriching himself by exploiting his public office. He quickly falls into a group known as the 40 Thieves, which I feel like the name says it all in this instance.
Sure. A little on the nose.
Yeah, they were up to that point some of the most corrupt politicians in New York City's history. And by the way, this would start a lifelong trend of Tweed raising that particular bar.
Okay, but like, did they not read Alibaba and the 40 Thieves before taking the name? The story is about the problem of greed, not a celebration of it.
I don't think they gave themselves that name, actually. The stationery would have been super awkward, right?
But they would have owned it.
So, yeah, no, that's fair. So he was elected to the U.S. House in 1852, served a single term without distinction. More significantly, though, he was also appointed to the New York County Board of Supervisors, which would become his first vehicle for large-scale grift. Now, the scam he used is remarkably simple, and everything he did from this point on his career would be basically the same thing, right? So if you owe the city money, you just tack on 15%. He takes that and distributes those funds among himself and his conspirators. If the city owes you, they'll just tack on 15% of that and have you give that money back to them for said distribution. And if you don't play along, of course, you don't get city contracts. And it was around that point where Tweed realized two important principles that were going to guide the rest of his life. The first was that the scam didn't have to be complicated to be effective. The second was that very often the most lucrative positions in government weren't the most prestigious. Often they weren't even elected positions. accountants.
Okay. A scam doesn't have to be complicated to be effective. I get that. But if you can manage to make it sound complicated, it will be much more effective. Like, it's not a pyramid scheme. It's a multi-level marketing boss babe entrepreneurial opportunity to shift the paradigm of your life by leveraging social synergies within your financial network.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
What are you selling, Tom? I'm in. Whatever it is, I'm in. It
pants.
doesn't matter.
I won 16 of them.
Pitch, I'm in.
On the ground floor. Now, the most significant vehicle for his rise in influence was a political organization called Tammany Hall, or the Society of St. Tammany. And it's honestly hard to draw a parallel between it and any modern institution. So it's like 3 parts political action committee, 1 part moose lodge, 1 part organized crime cabal. Right?
What? So many parts.
Planned Parenthood.
It was No, it seems like the chief qualification, though, for rising up in Tammany Hall's ranks was being okay with corruption. So needless to say, Tweed's rise was fucking meteoric. By 1863, he'd risen to the position of Grand Sachem, which is the top position, and that's when he started being referred to as boss.
On the wall, they have an elk head with mason compasses for horns.
Yeah, pretty much.
So confusing.
Yeah. Now, this whole time, of course, Boss Tweed is slowly amassing a fortune. Despite dropping out of school at the equivalent of 6th grade, he gets certified as a lawyer by a judge friend of his and uses the law firm to extort money even more than the name lawyer normally implies. Hi, Andrew. He also had himself appointed deputy street commissioner, which is not a particularly sexy job title, but it gave him considerable access to the city's contractors and funding. He also bought the New York Printing Company, which then suddenly became the city's official printer. He also bought the Manufacturing Stationers Company, which suddenly became the city's official stationery supplier. Both companies overcharged the shit out of the city, of course, but since nobody was scrutinizing those contracts except the people in Tweed's pockets, nobody said a word.
More like stamps.con. Am I right?
Right.
I feel like owning all the stationary contracts was like a way richer plum in the 19th century than it sounds like today.
No shit.
Put it in the file drawer next to all your buggy whip contacts, you know?
No, of course, all the politicians in the Tweed ring were getting a little something for their complicity. First of all, Tweed was known for his largesse. He greased a lot of palms and he did so generously, but more importantly, he delivered votes. So Tammany Hall was in many ways a lobbying group for the city's Irish immigrants. As its head, Tweed made sure that the basic social services were available to that group and kept a fuck ton of them employed with his insatiable love of public spending. But in addition to money and votes, he also offered protection to the people that worked with him. For example, when one of his accomplices got caught stealing $150,000 in city funds, the guy put in charge of arresting him was a Tammany operative who went to arrest him with the very specific instructions to break into the guy's house super loud and super slow while making the arrest. Needless to say, the thief in question managed to escape pretty easily through a back window and then lived out the remaining years of his life in Mexico.
He's chasing him down the hall like you're playing with a toddler. I'm gonna get you for stealing. Here I go. Oh, no, I fell down.
I feel like the slow motion raid is nice and all, but like they could have just sent him a message ahead of time that they were coming. They have plenty of stationery for the notes.
All right. So, of course, with great power comes powerful enemies. And this is the point in the story where we have to meet Tweed's arch nemesis, a guy by the name of Thomas Nast. Nast wasn't a plucky police sergeant or a hard-nosed private dick or a crusading prohibition agent. He was a cartoonist for Harper's. And from his desk at Harper's Weekly, he did more to bring that motherfucker down than pretty much any other single person. See, Tweed's corruption wasn't particularly well hidden. He was stupid rich and pretty much every source of income was fraudulent. But he was able to get away with it because he had his people appointed or elected to every position of oversight. That left this loophole, though, right? Because, like, cartoonists could make jokes about what a racketeer the motherfucker was, and that's exactly what Nast did.
Okay. So for people who don't remember this, imagine if every day someone printed out several pages of the internet, and on page 6 was a daily XK CD.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a newspaper.
Do you guys not print out your internet every morning to catch up? I've been printing out my internet.
We're Gen X, of course.
No,
we
Alex
do, man.
Jones. Some of us read our phones while we shit. Thank you.
It might be tempting to think a cartoonist in a fight with the most notorious city boss in American history would be an unfair fight, but Nast's cartoons were effective as all hell at painting Boss Tweed as the grifter that he was. What's more, Tweed knew they were effective. He reportedly said of Nast's cartoons, quote, "Stop them damn pictures. I don't care so much what the papers say about me. My constituents don't know how to read, but they can't help but seeing them damn pictures."
I love the uneducated.
Crazy. It's almost like short, punchy, visceral political statements might have a future somewhere with a character count. Well, we consider that. Let's take a quick break for some apropos of nothing.
Tyler, get in here, big guy.
Yes, Mr. Tweed.
That's Boss Tweed. They're calling me Boss now.
Right. Yes, Boss Tweed. You wanted to see me?
Yeah. Can you do something about this nasty guy? You know, the one who keeps drawing mean cartoons about me?
I can try, sir, I guess. What did you have in mind?
Ooh, how about a bribe? Did you tell him about my large nest?
Largesse, sir. And no, he won't take a bribe. I've tried.
What about a threat? Have we tried threatening him?
He won't budge. He says he's speaking truth to power using comedy.
All right. Then he leaves us no choice. We're going to have to kill comedy in the only surefire way that I know how.
How's that?
Have someone write in and ask him to explain every joke he makes until he's literally lost the will to make anything humorous ever again.
Oh, that's cruel, boss. I'm on it.
Okay, sorry, guys. I don't really understand the sketch. Can one of you guys explain it?
Damn it, Tom.
A little lost.
We're back. And before the break, a rich grifter was in charge and no one could do anything about it. And Noah said that this sort of thing happened a long time ago, too. So let us know how he won, Noah. How did he stop the steal?
Yeah.
Just let us know.
All right, so until this point in the story, Boss Tweed has been a power player in New York politics, but by 1869, he was the power player, thanks in part to $600,000 that he paid out in bribes to Republicans. That's like $13 million in today's money. He got a new charter passed that put more and more of the power in the hands of the city's aldermen, all 15 of which he controlled.
Jesus.
Yeah. By then, he controlled the state's governor, the city's mayor, the district attorney, and the city's comptroller, a Tammany associate named Richard Slippery Dick Connolly. God, I love that nickname. Tweed wore a lot of hats back then, including that of state senator, but the highest office he held in the city of New York was Commissioner of Public Works, which, again, put him in control of the city's purse strings.
And he's worried about a bunch of mean Marmaduke comics? I mean, like, what is the worst thing that could happen? Someone's going to read Family Circus and then write a sternly worded letter on the stationery they bought from Boss Tweed?
Just you wait, sir. Now, of course, then as now, New York was the nation's financial capital, and that's a lot of the reason that Tweed's grift was able to reach such a phenomenal scale. The city had no end of banks to borrow from, and all the bankers were desperate to stay on the good side of Tammany Hall. So Tweed's corruption was able to drive the cities into astronomical debt without the coffers ever running dry.
All the banks setting up credit card sign-up tables with free koozies outside Tammany Hall's Water Buffalo Oasis or whatever it's called.
Yeah, right. One of the most famous examples of Tweed's grift comes from the notorious construction of what's now known as the Tweed Courthouse. It ended up costing about twice as much as Alaska.
Oh, my God.
About $13 million in all. That's like, again, 1870s, right? So we're talking about $290 million today. The receipts on this thing are insane, too. One carpenter was paid the equivalent of $5 million for a month's work. A plasterer got the equivalent of $1.8 million for 2 days' work at one point.
Unions, am I right?
You are not right.
If you ask a Fox News viewer, they'd say that, like, this is how much a fast food employee would make if they weren't living off that fat stimulus check they got 14 months ago. So,
driving up the inflation.
I don't know the going rate for a month's worth of, like, carpentering, but I feel like Tweed's tacking on a touch more than the usual 15%.
Yeah, I think in this instance. Also, by the way, Tweed bought a quarry and then granted that quarry exclusive right to provide the millions of dollars worth of marble that the project was going to use. And then he overcharged himself.
What?
And then he skimmed off the top of himself as well.
I don't even know who I'm robbing anymore. I don't give a shit.
Furiously handing himself money in a circle.
Yeah. Just passing a briefcase from one hand to the other. Yeah. He also made a ton of money by directing public works projects to places where he owned property, right? So basically he and his cronies would go buy up a bunch of land in a neighborhood and then build that area up in terms of parks and infrastructure and shit, and then sell that now much more valuable land.
Nowadays, they call that an air Tweed and Tweed.
I don't think that's what they call it.
Thank you,
Or
Cecil.
a VRBO. Now it's a lot more expensive.
No, yes. All right, but what goes up with insufficient force to escape Earth's gravitational pull must come down.
I know it's true, Noah, but it's not as catchy. You got to let it go, man.
I feel like it's as catchy. If we all tried together, it would catch on. And of course, that was as true for Boss Tweed as it was for anybody else. His fall from grace began in 1871, and like so many downfalls of powerful men, it started with someone under his slippery dick. Specifically, a county auditor in the comptroller's office named James Watson, who was in charge of keeping the Tweed Rings books. In 1871, he had the temerity to get his head smooshed in a carriage accident, and he died. And before Tweed could orchestrate a workable replacement, the duty fell to one Matthew O'Rourke, who was not in the Tweed circle. And it didn't take a hell of a lot of digging to start uncovering the many $100,000 an hour contractors the city apparently had working for them. Now, of course, Tweed's corruption had always been an inch and a half away from public knowledge, so just his books coming to light might not actually have been enough to bring him down if it hadn't come right on the heels of a fight about a parade that left 60 people dead and another 150 injured. That fight is called the Orange Riot of 1871.
Not to be confused with the Orange Riot of January 6th.
No, it's slightly more deadly even. So this started when Protestants wanted to have a parade to celebrate a historic victory against Catholics, and Catholics wanted them to not. After some wrangling at City Hall, Tweed agreed to let the parade take place, but his constituency wasn't on board, and they sparked a riot in protest. A lot of the power brokers in the city took this as a sign that Tweed was losing control over his constituency, and without the backing of the city's Irish immigrant population, Tweed had no real power base at all.
Okay, this is the part about rich grifters I will never understand. When you lose control of your mob of sycophants, but you are still fantastically wealthy and not in jail, that is the time to relocate to Belize.
Yes.
Just go.
Right. Just look at the running time. It's almost 2 hours. You know, you've got to fucking flee now. So in light of all of this, the mayor, a Tweed associate named A. Oakley Hall, impanels a commission to look into the city's finances. But all the commissioners were people in Tweed's pockets, so they dutifully found that the books were faithfully kept. But at the same time, somebody started feeding inside information about the contents of those books to the New York Times. Tweed offered the paper a staggering $5 million not to print it. That's over $100 million in today's money.
Take it.
But to the paper's credit, they told him to fuck dust, and they ran with the headline, "Gigantic Frauds of the Ring Exposed." Pretty on the nose. In response, Tweed started desperately transferring ownership of his real estate and investments to family members.
I'm not a fraud. I'm a nepotist, I say. A nepotist.
Now, the most consequential thing to come from the Times expose was an international crisis of confidence in New York City's finances. European investors owned a lot of New York's bonds, and as the reputation of the city's government flagged, so did their faith in its ability to repay those debts. So, with his voting base in Soft Rebellion...
Soft Rebellion is the name of my new online boner pill store.
Fuck yeah,
really
yeah. But with his voters in Soft Rebellion, his corruption on the front page, and the bankers losing trust in him, the whole city turned against Tweed. A group called the Executive Committee of Citizens and Taxpayers for Financial Reform of the City, Jesus, that's a mouthful, went after Tammany Hall's financing by encouraging property owners to refuse to pay municipal taxes. That quickly leads to city workers not getting paid, and that quickly leads to city workers marching on City Hall and demanding Tweed's resignation.
At least they didn't bother him when he was eating his medium well steak at Lowry's.
No, that's true. Right. Have some respect. But it turns out that the protesters got more than Tweed's resignation. They got his arrest on charges of embezzlement. Now, he was released pretty much immediately on $1 million bail and tried to stage a comeback, but despite some electoral success, he was arrested again later that year, and this time bail cost him $8 million.
He just hands him 2 carpenters and asks for change.
There's a guy with one of those things on his belt, just like pressing the buttons, and drywallers come out of it.
So in his first trial, the jury was unable to reach a verdict. But the city tried him again, and he was running low on bribe money by then. So the jury in the retrial found him guilty on 204 of 220 counts. He was sentenced to 12 years in jail, but a higher court reduced his sentence to 1 year. He served that, but then when he got out, the state filed a civil suit to recover $6 million in embezzled funds. And this time he couldn't afford to post bail, so they locked him up in jail. But, and your guess is as good as mine on this one, the jail allowed him periodic home visits.
Is he an Epstein?
It wasn't full-time jail. He was part-time in jail. So during one of those visits, he just fucking left and he fled the country.
That guy who let him go is like, oh, so I guess pinky swears mean nothing now. I'm fired? Yeah, I'm fired. Okay, yeah.
All right, so now he did successfully manage to escape the U.S. and made it all the way to Europe, working as a common seaman on a Spanish ship.
Flagellante. Hey.
But the minute he arrived in port, his arch nemesis, the cartoonist Thomas Nast, struck one last time. Someone at the docks literally recognized Boss Tweed from the Harper's cartoons and contacted the authorities. No shit really happened. Spain immediately arrested him and turned him over to a U.S. warship, which returned him to the prison that he would ultimately die in.
And see, this is why, canonically, I'm the least handsome one on the podcast. It's about discretion, people.
There you go.
Discretion. Yeah.
No, of course, there's no record of every dollar Tweed embezzled from the city and state of New York, and the convoluted web of ownership and shit made his personal fortune impossible to precisely measure as well. Still, there have been a number of attempts to quantify it for posterity. Now, the wiki wants to make it super clear that some historians think Boss Tweed was just an innocent victim of circumstance, but they're in an extreme minority. He was ultimately convicted of stealing an amount estimated by the Aldermen's Committee at the time as being between $25 and $45 million.
Jesus.
But later estimates actually put that number as high as 200 million. And I cannot emphasize this enough, in 1870s dollars. Wow. Yeah, that would be like stealing $4 billion today.
Yeah, that's without a fake charity and a build a wall GoFundMe, guys. Think about that.
Doing it old school.
Again, this is the real problem. All these fucking guys, they rob the house and then they try to live in the house.
Yes.
Look, if I embezzle fuck off money, the first thing I'm going to do is to fuck off. The fucking off is the point of the money.
That's why I'm not allowed a debit card for the account.
Exactly. Also, he gets caught embezzling $4 billion and spends a year in jail. Then, okay, but after that, fuck off. Yeah.
Right.
Now, to be clear, I should also probably mention that Tweed did make a few historical contributions that didn't involve his greed, or at least didn't directly involve his greed, I guess. For example, at one point, he got involved with an early professional baseball team called the New York Mutuals. In typical Tweed fashion, he jacked up ticket prices and then used insider knowledge to gain a betting advantage.
Amazing.
But yeah, every story about him has to have at least a little of that. But he's also credited with starting the tradition of spring training when he sent his club to New Orleans to prepare for the 1869 season. He also is cited as the guy who shortened the name from Liberty Enlightening the World to Statue of Liberty, purportedly so it would look better in headlines.
French chick with lamp. Too far. Okay, Statue of Liberty. That one rolls off the tongue.
Now, somehow, despite all the taint that he brought to the name, Tammany Hall managed to remain a power player in New York state politics for several more decades. They, too, though, would ultimately fall, as so many fell, after picking a fight with Franklin Delano Roosevelt. That fight started when he was New York's governor and got way worse for him a couple years later when he was elected president for life in 1932. He was stripped a group of federal patronage that same year, and 2 years later, Fiorello LaGuardia would be elected mayor, marking the first time in over 100 years that somebody rose to that position without Tammany Hall's permission.
Huh. And if you had to summarize what you learned in one sentence, what would it be?
Heath's guy was climbing around Venetian mansions for nothing, honestly.
Are you ready for the quiz, Noah?
Oh, yeah.
All right, Noah, you made the terrible mistake of mentioning FDR, and you know what that means? Why was FDR the perfect person to take on Boss Tweed?
Oh, no.
A, he stood on principle.
Oh, damn it, Eli.
B, he talked the talk and walked the walk.
Eli.
C, he was willing to stand up to anyone. Or D, legs.
Yikes.
Okay, I refuse to answer on principle. Eli, this kind of ableism will not stand.
Yikes. You too. Both of you.
You are politically correct.
All right, Noah. With the recent Supreme Court decrees, we should perhaps start a new comic to highlight their corruption. What would that comic strip be called? So the first one's a Broomhilda reference. If you don't remember that one, it's a Broomhilda was a witch.
Don't apologize for the joke.
I gotta pre-apologize.
They gotta come to you. They earn you.
I gotta pre-apologize. A, keep that womb Filda. B,
fantastic.
Andy Cap and Trade. C, Little Orphan Clanny. Or D, focus on the family circus.
All right, I think you're trying to throw me with the apology because keep that womb Filda is fucking brilliant. I think it's A, keep that womb Filda.
You're correct.
Oh, fuck yeah,
Sure.
I am. Or actually, no, I'm not. I'm looking ahead. It looks like I'm not. No, I am. I am.
You're
Sweet.
correct.
Yeah, no, I am
So,
correct. I'm
yeah.
correct. Yep.
Yeah, I'm
right.
going to win in a second with this great question. I hope you're ready for it. Stealing money through grift is an American tradition, but forgetting to run away is also weirdly an American tradition. Who are two of the answers to this not quite a question that I wrote below? A, Bernie should have made off with the cash. B, Frank Abig nailed everything but the getaway.
I think it's C. You should have wrote the whole question. You were so close.
That's not even a question. All I had in my head was Bernie made off with the cash. I didn't know what to do with it.
And that's the
So
answer.
I win somehow.
That's the answer. And you win, Tom.
Oh, damn it.
All right. Well, Cecil, since I win, you can write, my good man.
All right. Well, I got something already done. All right. Well, for Tom, Noah, Eli, and the ghost of Heath, I'm Cecil. Thank you for hanging out with us today. We'll be back next week, and by then, I will be an expert on something else. Between now and then, you can listen to all our other shows, and you can find those links at our website. And if you'd like to help keep this show going, you can make a per-episode donation at patreon.com/citationpod, or you could leave us a 5-star review everywhere you can. And if you'd like to get in touch with us, check out past episodes, connect with us on social media, or check the show notes. Be sure to check out citationpod.com.
50-50 chance someone writes to us to ask if Heath is dead now, because you said the ghost of Heath. And honestly, I don't know whether I should be terrified or excited that people would think that would be how we would announce it.